How the Grinch Stole Christmas, written by Dr. Seuss, narrated by Thomas LeCale. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was two sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Who's, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm, lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a holly Who wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find some way to keep Christmas from coming. For tomorrow I know all the Who girls and boys will wake bright and early. They'll rush for their toys. And then, oh, the noise. Oh, the noise, 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 noise. There's one thing I hate. Oh, the noise, 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 noise. And they'll shriek, squeaks, and squeals, racing round on their wheels. They'll dance with jing tinklers tied onto their heels. They'll blow their flufuvers. They'll bang their tartukas. They'll blow their hoo-hoopers. They'll bang their gardukas. Spin their tomtukas. They'll slam their sloo-slunkers. They'll beat their blumboopers. They'll wham their hoo-wonkers. They'll play noisy games like Zuzita Kaze, a roller skate type lacrosse and croquet. Then they'll make air-splitting noises galooks on their great big electro-hoocanio flukes. Then the Who's, young and old, will sit down to a feast. And they'll feast, and they'll feast, and they'll feast, 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 feast. They'll feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast. Oh, roast beast is a feast I can't stand in the least. Then they'll do something I hate most of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, they'll stand close together, and with Christmas bells ringing, they'll stand hand in hand, and those Who's will start singing. And they'll sing, and they'll sing, and they'll sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas thing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I put up with it now. I must stop Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat. I'll make a quick Santa Claus hat and coat. And he chuckled and clucked. What a great Grinchy trick! With his coat and his hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer is scarce, it was none to be found. Did that stop the Grinch? Ha! The Grinch simply said, if I can't find the reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he took his dog Max, he took some black thread, he tied a big horn on top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some olden piece sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he whistled for Max. And the Grinch said, giddy up! And the sleigh started down to the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in the town. All the windows were dark, no one knew he was there. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square. This is stop number one, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, as he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once, for a minute or two, then he stuck his head out, and the fireplace flew, where the little Who stockings hung all in a row. These stockings, he grinched, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns, pampugas, pantukas and drums, checkerboards, bizzlebigs, popcorn and plums. He stuffed them in bags, and the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slunk to the ice box. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out the ice box quick as a flash. Why, the Grinch even took the last can of Who hash. And he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. Now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. As the Grinch took the tree, as he started to shove, he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast, and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou Who, who's no more than two. She stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know, that old Grinch was so smart, so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on a tree that won't light on one side, so I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, and I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who was in bed with her cup, he crept to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. The last thing he took was a log for their fire. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was a quarter of dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, their ribbons and wrappings, the snoof and their fuzzles, the tringlers and trappings. 10,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip top to dump it. Poof-hoo to the Who's, he was grinchily humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. He paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, and it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, the sound sounded glad. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes of bags. He puzzled and puzzled till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And then the true meaning of Christmas came through, and the Grinch found the strength of 10 Grinches plus 2. Now that his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. With a smile to his soul, he descended Mount Crumpet, cheerily blowing hoo-hoo on his trumpet. He rode into Whoville. He brought back the toys. He brought back the floof to the Who girls and boys. He brought back their snoof and their tringlers and fuzzles. He brought back their pantookas, their dafflers and wuzzles. He brought everything back, all the food for the feast, and he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. Welcome Christmas, bring a cheer, cheer to all who's far and near. Christmas Day is in our grasp, so long as we have hands to clasp. Christmas Day will always be, just as long as we have we. Welcome Christmas while we stand, heart to heart and hand to hand.